In the middle of one of Minneapolis's most polished suburbs, a winding path slips into 200 acres of woods, water and marsh where herons stalk the shallows and the city seems to vanish. It looks like a scrap of untouched wilderness, but this green heart is doing hidden work, cleaning the water of a whole watershed. Welcome to Bredesen Park. We are in Edina, a suburb on the southwest edge of Minneapolis in Hennepin County. The park spreads across some 200 acres along 9 Mile Creek, a green corridor tucked between busy roads and quiet neighborhoods, and this network of trails threads through its woods, ponds, and wetlands. The thread that ties the park together is 9 Mile Creek, a small stream that winds westward across Edina and Bloomington to empty into the Minnesota River. It is an ordinary-looking creek, but like every creek, it is a drain and a lifeline at once, gathering the rain of the whole surrounding land and carrying it, and everything in it, downstream to the great river. The gentle, rolling ground here was shaped by glaciers. As the last ice sheets melted back across Minnesota, they left behind a rumpled blanket of sand, gravel, and clay, pocked with hollows where buried ice once sat. Those hollows became the marshes, ponds, and low, wet ground of this park, and the creek simply found its way through the lowest of them. Long before it was Edina, this was Dakota homeland, part of Mni Sota Makoce, the land where the waters reflect the skies. The Mduakanton Dakota lived and traveled through this country of lakes, creeks, and woods just south of the Minnesota River, and small streams like this one were part of a living landscape of hunting, fishing, and gathering. This ground sits along an old natural boundary. To the west lay the tallgrass prairie, and to the east the dense hardwood forest the settlers called the Big Woods, a jungle of elm, maple, oak, and basswood. Edina straddled that seam, and patches of that old forest and marsh, like the woods in this park, still hint at the wild land the first farmers found here. Edina began, like so many places, with a mill. In the 1850s, settlers built a grist mill on nearby Minnehaha Creek to grind the wheat of the surrounding farms, and a little milling settlement grew up around it. That mill gave the community its first heartbeat, turning water and grain into flour and a village into a town. The town took an unusual name. Many of its early settlers were Scottish, and the story goes that the community was named Edina, an old poetic name for Edinburgh, the Scottish capital, carried across an ocean and planted on the Minnesota prairie. It is a small monument to the immigrants who broke this ground, hidden in plain sight on every road sign. For its first century, Edina was farm country, a patchwork of grain fields and dairy pastures on the rolling glacial land, with creeks and marshes threading between them. It was the kind of quiet agricultural fringe that ringed every growing city, close enough to sell to the town, far enough to still feel like the country. Then the city came. Through the 20th century, and especially after the Second World War, Edina transformed from farmland into one of the most sought-after suburbs in the region, its fields becoming curving streets and comfortable homes. As the houses spread, the old creeks and marshes were squeezed, and a hard question arose: what to do with all the rain that once soaked quietly into the land? A city of rooftops, driveways, and streets sheds water fast. Rain that once sank into fields now rushes off hard surfaces, picking up sediment and pollutants and racing toward the nearest creek. Left alone, all of that would pour straight down 9 Mile Creek and into the Minnesota River, muddy and dirty. And this is exactly where the quiet genius of this park comes in. The northern end of Bredesen Park is a restored wetland, and it has a job. Storm runoff from hundreds of acres of neighboring Bloomington flows in here first, and as it spreads across the marsh and sloughs, it drops its load of sediment and lets the plants filter the water before it ever reaches the creek. The park is, in effect, a giant natural machine for cleaning water. That work has left the park dotted with water. Ponds and pools like Lake and Everett Pond gather among the trees, drawing anglers with their fishing rods and wildlife to their edges. What looks like simply pretty scenery is a carefully tended system, holding water back, settling it clean, and handing it on gently to the creek. And so this restored wild teems with life. Great blue herons and egrets wade the shallows, turtles bask on logs, wood ducks paddle among the cattails, and deer slip through the woods at dusk, all of it a short walk from a freeway. A place built to clean a suburb's water has become a refuge for the wild and for the people who wander its trails. A glacier's leftovers, a Scottish name, a mill town turned suburb, and a marsh quietly cleaning a city's rain, all folded into one green loop of trail. Thank you for watching. Follow for more interesting people, places, and things we cover on the channel.